the polar bear and Kodiak bear. These two are the largest living members of the ursid family, being absolute units that act as the largest predators that are currently walking the earth. G'day mates, hope you're doing well. Today we'll be breaking down the true king of the bears and to what difficulty the winner would achieve success. As always, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel and comment down below who you think the winner would be. With that, let us get started with our analysis, starting off with the polar bear. This ice bear is infamously known as the largest terrestrial carnivore on the planet, and that is for a good reason. Their sizes can vary considerably depending on the season and the availability of food. Adult males typically weigh around 515 kilograms or 1,135 pounds. However, exceptionally large individuals can grow far beyond this. The heaviest polar bear ever documented weighed in at a jaw-dropping 1,002 kilograms or 2,209 pounds, making it the largest extant bear ever documented. When standing upright on their hind legs, large males can reach 3.2 meters or 10.4 feet tall. For perspective, that is roughly the shoulder height of an African elephant. They possess long necks, relatively narrow skulls, and elongated bodies which help to assist in swimming efficiently across the vast stretches of icy ocean. Beneath their thick fur lies a layer of blubber that can exceed 10 centimeters or 4 inches in thickness. We also cannot forget they are powerful enough to sustain attacks from other polar bears as well as the prey that they hunt, including walruses. On land, these bears are capable of reaching speeds of around 40 kilometers an hour or 25 miles per hour, which allows them to close distance on prey rapidly before they have the chance to escape. In the water, however, the polar bear still retains its power, being regarded as one of the strongest swimmers of terrestrial animals. They're able to maintain speeds of around 10 kilometers an hour or 6 miles per hour for extended periods of time. Despite this seemingly endless stamina, that does not equate well for fighting. Onto weaponry, the polar bear's greatest weapons includes its raw strength, jaws, and forelimbs. Its biforce is estimated at around 5,000 newtons. Its large canine teeth can measure over 5 centimeters or 2 inches in length and are designed for puncturing flesh and anchoring prey down. The teeth towards the rear of their jaw are efficient when it comes to shearing meat. But enough about their jaws, we know bears for their devastating forelimbs. The swipes from these bears are easily strong enough to cut through skin and fat, as well as knock prey off of balance. The paws themselves are gigantic, and they are armed with thick curved claws that could grow 3 inches or 7.6 centimeters long. These are able to provide grip on ice while also functioning as a powerful tool during combat. For intelligence, bears are actually some of the smartest animals on planet Earth, and polar bears are no different. They are known to memorize hunting routines, adapt for changing environments, and exploit opportunities with incredible patience. Individuals have been observed using stealth, timing, and environmental cover to approach prey, while others demonstrate a curiosity when it comes to learning behaviors. It has even been noted that polar bears can use rocks to spring traps, so they are then able to take the food out of it without risk of getting caught. And of course though, in the Arctic you need some pretty good senses, and the polar bears have exactly that. They have the ability to smell out carcasses from over 32 kilometers or 20 miles away, and can even smell a seal below 3 feet of ice. When it comes to experience from a young age, cubs must learn how to survive rather quickly. They need to learn how to hunt their prey, and most importantly, learn how to fight other bears. Their primary prey consists of seals, including ringed and bearded seals. Larger adults are also known to attempt to hunt walruses, of course though targeting vulnerable or injured individuals. These bears have also been cited to occasionally prey on beluga whales, narwhals, reindeer, and musk oxen. Throughout their lives, they would of course face other members of their species over food, territory, or for reproduction. However, despite a population of over 20,000 individuals, they roam an enormous Arctic range and are thus mostly solo. As a result, encounters with other polar bears would be relatively infrequent unless during breeding season. Now, with all that being said, it is evident that the polar bear is one unit of a species. They take on prey the same size or even larger and more dangerous than themselves. And of course, they have to fight other bears during their lifetime. But now it is time to check out how the Kodiak bear stacks up. So while the polar bear may be considered to be the largest bear, we have to remember that the Kodiak does not travel too far behind them. They are a true rival when it comes to overall size. Adult males typically weigh in at around 500 kilograms or 1,102 pounds. The largest reliably documented wild Kodiak bear came in at around 751 kilograms or 1,656 pounds. Meanwhile, the largest captive Kodiak bear, known as Clyde, was said to have weighed in at around 966 kilograms or 2,130 pounds. When standing up to their hind legs, these bears can reach approximately 3 meters or 10 feet tall, only making them slightly shorter than a polar bear. What really differs the two is their overall build. Kodiak bears are overall more bulky and round animals. They possess a massive shoulder hump which is composed of dense muscle. We have to take into account that smaller grizzly bears around half their size are known to be capable of moving 700-pound dumpsters. Combine that with their broader chest and stockier frame, and that is one bear you would never want to be slapped by. Yet they have to endure that themselves when they occasionally fight each other. You may think as a result of their round build that Kodiak bears weren't quick animals. Well, I'm here to say that is absolutely wrong. They are able to reach speeds of around 56 kilometers an hour or 35 miles per hour. This speed allows them to ambush prey such as deer, react quickly when defending their cubs, or run away when they've lost a fight. They even have the ability to fight for extended periods of time, and although not as specialized for the aquatic like as polar bears, these are still capable swimmers that need to move around between feeding grounds. Now, unsurprisingly, the Kodiak bear's weaponry is the same as the polar bears, being its strength, forelimbs, and jaws. Now, Kodiak bears specifically don't have too much coverage when it comes to its bite force, but it has been noted that brown bears that are around 250 kilograms have been measured to have bites of over 2,000 newtons. So to say that Kodiak bears would have a similar or even more powerful bite than a polar bear, considering that they even possess slightly larger skulls, should not be too much of a reach. Their canine teeth can reach 6 centimeters or 2.4 inches in length and are easily able to deliver deep puncture wounds. And of course we have their forelimbs, which are driven by their gigantic shoulder hump. With these muscles, Kodiak bears are able to overturn heavy rocks, rip apart logs, carve out their own dens, and of course overpower prey. Now if you look at some of the comparisons between people to a Kodiak bear's paw size, then it is out of this world. Their claws are able to grow over 10 centimeters or 4 inches in length. When it comes to intelligence, brown bears have excellent memory, are extremely adaptable, and can easily solve problems. Their senses of smell are known to be great across the animal kingdom, having the capability to smell over 2,000 times greater than humans. Now, although that their sense of smell may not be as strong as a polar bear's, they are able to detect a wider range of objects. But as the same as the polar bear, their hearing and eyesight does suit them well, however those aspects are not their strongest points. On to our last section of this debate being the Kodiak's experience. It should be no surprise that they learn a lot living within one of the richest ecosystems in North America. Cubs need to learn quickly how to feed, fight and survive, especially considering that on the island that they live on, there can be as many as 0.7 bears per square mile. This is significantly more than what polar bears have to deal with, meaning that young bears are in extreme danger of predation. Once reaching adulthood, Kodiak bears become opportunistic animals, being able to exploit pretty much every diet that they want. Kodiak bears are generalists when it comes to their diet, feeding on salmon, deer, elk, berries, grasses, and pretty much anything else that washes on shore or grows within their ecosystem. However, this diet does put them at a bit of a disadvantage when it comes to experiences in hunting. On top of that, they are not hunting large game like deer and elk all the time. Even if they were, I think that a walrus would overshadow the both of them any day of the week. Where they do have the advantage, however, is their experience in taking on other bears. Competition can run hot at salmon streams, where although it is an often chilled place, individuals may battle for dominance through displays, intimidation, and even combat. And that should be an expected reaction when over 50 bears can be located within a square mile of each other. Overall, the Kodiak bear is no slouch at all, reaching close to the size of a polar bear while also having an arguably more stockier and robust build, which is highly important for fighting. But alright, we've said what we had to say about each bear, but who takes what categories? Well, I believe that the polar bear takes length, height, weight, agility, endurance, experience, and senses. Meanwhile, I think that the Kodiak bear takes strength, durability, speed, striking ability, bite effectiveness, skills, and stamina. For our tied section, I believe that they are both equal when it comes to bite force and intelligence. Bite force should be obvious as both are highly relative in size and the smaller brown bear subspecies aren't lagging too far behind the polar bears. However, intelligence is a harder one to determine as polar bears do technically have larger brains. Meanwhile, brown bears have the advantage of being more documented as they live closer to human populations. So in a hypothetical scenario where these two would face each other, how will the fight go? Well, the clash between a polar bear and Kodiak bear would undoubtedly be brutal. Polar bears are specialized hypercarnivores built to taste subaquatic prey within the harsh Arctic environment. On the other paw, the Kodiak bear is a heavily built omnivore relying more on bulk power and territorial aggression. In a head-on confrontation, the polar bear would likely appear larger and thus more imposing. Its longer neck and forelimbs and more streamlined frame give it a greater reach advantage. If neither would back down and the fight escalated physically, the polar bear would likely attempt to utilize its reach and grappling ability to control the engagement early. Meanwhile, its bite would be successful at taking out pieces of the Kodiak bear. However, the Kodiak bear would not just be overpowered immediately. These bears are muscular, compact, and resilient animals capable of standing their ground against rivals of similar size. In close quarters, the Kodiak bear's raw body strength and explosive power could allow it to absorb punishment and retaliate with devastating force. And though the polar bear does have an advantage being a hyper-carnivore, leading it to tackle larger and more dangerous prey regularly, I would argue that the Kodiak bear's greater bear experience really gives it a more beneficial advantage. And of course, terrain would play a major role. It would be in a cooler, flat and open environment, but not one that is covered in ice. Ultimately, the fight can go down in many different ways, but it really comes down to one big factor, this being the size of the bears. If we're using the averages of a 515 kg polar bear against a 500 kg Kodiak bear, then I am of the belief that the Kodiak bear would come out on top. Being only a 15 kg difference between the two, it would not be significant enough for the polar bear to have the advantage. Meanwhile, the Kodiak bear would likely be stronger, faster, and certainly have the advantage when it comes to stamina. On top of that, their skull and claws are larger, allowing for more significant damage to be dealt. But don't get me wrong, the polar bear wouldn't just go down like that. It would be an extreme difficulty battle. On the other hand, if we are using their maximum wild weights of a 1002 kg polar bear against a 751 kg Kodiak bear, then yeah, I think that the polar bear would take the win. Though the Kodiak bear would undoubtedly have more fuel in the tank, a more bold nature and greater weaponry, the polar bear would still be holding a 33% mass advantage. Now, as with these fights, weight is often king and the same would apply here. The two would likely wrestle for a portion of time before the polar's greater mass advantage would allow it to topple the Kodiak bear, and with that likely delivering the final blow and scoring the victory. Our last fight is if we were to use them at their utmost noted sizes, this being a 1002 kg polar bear against a 966 kg Kodiak bear. And here it's where things get iffy. This is because, as often is the case with captive animals, they tend to weigh more as a result of having a regular food supply and not having to work for it. And I mean, Clyde the bear held 23 centimeters of fat, which is double that of polar bears that are meant to live in the Arctic. In this scenario, I think I would have to say it's a tie. If we are saying that Kodiak bears would be able to hypothetically reach these masses healthily, then same with the average weights, I think that the polar bear would not hold a significant enough advantage to overcome its stamina issue. However, if we were to approach this from the angle that a Kodiak of this size would be unhealthy, well then yeah, I would give the win to the polar bear as he managed to acquire its 1 ton weight within the wild. Now, when tallying up the fights, the Kodiak bear would likely win more times than not at their average weights and maximum captive weight if healthy. Meanwhile, the polar bear would win at maximum wild weights and maximum captive weight if the Kodiak bear would be considered unhealthy. So ultimately, which bear do I think would take the overall victory? Well, if you ask me and I had to make a choice, I think I would give it to the Kodiak bear. This is mainly because their sizes are very, and I mean very close, but the Kodiak bear would have greater experience when it comes to fighting other bears, not have to worry about getting overheated as quickly, and overall is equipped with the greater weaponry. At the utmost difficulty, I would give the crown to the Kodiak bear. Now, realistically, would these fights go to the end? No. As observed in many times across all bears, they are very rarely determined to fight until the end. But of course, though, this scenario is just hypothetical to figure out which bear would win. But with all that being said, we have reached the end of the video and I hope you've all enjoyed. As always, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you can see more videos just like this. Anyways, I'll catch you all in the next video. See ya, mates.